I love that more and more therapists are trauma informed, but when it comes to healing the fearful avoidant attachment style, being trauma informed might not be enough. I would love your therapist to also be fear tractable. And in this video, we are going to dive into what that is exactly and why it's important. I am Pauline, and I am so happy you are here because I love the fact that trauma informed has become more the norm um, than the exception. It is so important for a therapist to understand trauma, to have empathy for that, to know how to respectfully handle trauma and to actually take it seriously, because maybe you can't even imagine, but 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even therapists could be dismissive when it came to trauma. And um, I can't imagine it anymore. Thank goodness we really live in different times. And I love that so many therapists have just really, they really took that seriously. And it's now pretty much standard when it comes to healing attachment styles and working with people with attachment styles. Trauma informed is a norm, which is amazing. But when it comes to the fearful avoidant attachment style, there is a lot of fear involved. There is a lot of um, logic that isn't very logical to the rational brain. And that is where fear tractable is very important. First, let's just dive a little bit deeper into what trauma informed means so that it is clear what fear tractable actually adds to the equation. So, trauma informed means recognizing trauma symptoms and understanding their root causes. And it is kind of a lens through which the therapist views their clients. It means they are versed in validation, in psychoeducation, awareness of triggers. They use gentle pacing, and they avoid re-traumatization. So it is just a very important foundation when it comes to a therapist working with anyone with trauma. But that doesn't mean that they know how to handle fear. Fear gets almost overlooked, and I feel like, and I know a lot of therapists, the even very well-intended ones, they still kind of assume that people want to be safe, want to feel safe, want to feel good. They aren't really aware of how fear works and what fear needs. And that's especially important in the fearful avoidant attachment style, because it's not called fearful avoidant for nothing. You have what I call a fear dominant brain. That means that fear just reigns. It dictates what you think, you how you feel, your behavior. And that is not a bad thing, and it's not something to be scared of. It's just something that anybody working with you should understand how to work with, because otherwise you trigger the fear brain and protection mechanisms. So this was actually one of the first things that I realized when I started healing the fearful avoidant attachment style myself, that really helped me, that I realized there was a part of me that was not concerned with me being or becoming happy. It just wanted to protect me. And so I started calling that the fear brain, because up to that point, I just kind of assumed that everything in me wanted to get better, wanted to feel better, um, wanted to feel good. And that wasn't the case. I started realizing that so many of my thoughts were aimed at keeping me in the same situation as where I was in. And I didn't like it, but it felt safer for my fear brain. And calling it the fear brain and seeing it as a fear brain really helped me to differentiate it from me as a person. I wasn't that. I wasn't those thoughts. And that's when I started observing the fear brain. How does it work? How does it think? What does it want? What is the logic behind it? And I realized there's a whole psychological system behind fear. There's so much that fear does and fear wants that isn't logical to the rational mind. And it is not logical to people who haven't experienced fear in this intense way as you as a fearful avoidant, or we as fearful avoidants experience it. So a therapist that is fear tractable knows how fear works. So what is tractable? It's not trackable, it's tractable. And let me explain why I gave it that name. Tractable means capable of being easily led, taught, or controlled. Easily handled, managed, or wrought. And that means that when a therapist is fear tractable, they can actually lead fear. It goes beyond not being afraid of fear or staying calm in the face of fear. It means that they understand how fear works and they can lead it. They can lead fear because your fear brain doesn't really want to be in control. It feels like that because it kind of does everything to do that, to protect you. But when there is somebody that has safe authority, that can show the fear brain, again, that part of your brain that is trying to protect you, that it's safe where you're going, that it's safe to heal, that makes an absolute world of difference. And so a fear tractable therapist, a therapist that understands how fear works, what it needs, and how you can lead it, understand fear brain logic. So they know fear things in catastrophe. When something goes wrong, everything falls apart, everything collapses. They understand that the fear brain is only searching for certainty, 100% waterproof certainty. And it doesn't matter if that's in the negative or in the positive, it just wants 100% certainty. It draws black and white conclusions. There isn't anything in between. And a fear tractable therapist also understands why there's black and white conclusions. So not just the fact that your fear brain thinks in black and white, it's also why. It understands that fear thinks in urgency and projects fear into the future. It's just the whole system, the whole logic of the fear brain there is logic to it, but you need to learn it because it doesn't really make sense to the rational brain. But when you understand the fear brain, so much about fear makes sense. And a fear tractable therapist also understands and recognizes when fear turns into irritation, disgust, numbness, doubt, overanalysis, just the thoughts going from thoughts to, or questions to statements. So it understands how your fear brain is trying to protect you and all the different ways that can show up as, which there's a lot. So when you have a therapist that is fear tractable, so that knows how to lead fear and knows how to work with fear, it prevents you from being unnecessarily triggered. It prevents you from spending a lot of sessions on what are actually protection mechanisms, but taking those too seriously and thinking that is the problem. A fear tractable therapist will immediately recognize that is a protection mechanism and work on the fear underneath. They will know what activates the fear system. So it's not about your therapist being calm and regulated. It's them understanding what a fear dominant brain needs so that you feel safe and your fear brain feels safe, because your fear brain in a way is kind of like a toddler that has just been given a way too big of a task. And it's just trying to control and trying to get a sense of safety and trying to protect you because it feels like you are overwhelmed and can't really handle it. it does go beyond inner child work. So it's not that when your therapist is versed in inner child work that works, because I have another video on that as well, about the fear brain and what it needs to heal, and I go into that. Um, but it really is a separate thing. That's why I mapped it and I dove into it, because this is missing so much from therapy. Um, so right now there's nobody that that has been really trained in this, but I know there's therapists that naturally understand this and that have learned it from, so many different um, studies that they did. So there are already therapists who are fear tractable, maybe just not specifically trained in that. But I want you to know this so that you can recognize whether your therapist is fear tractable or not. And I just don't want you to feel like it's your fault when you get triggered in sessions, when you feel a lot of fear in sessions and you feel like, oh, this is just, what is part of it, and I just need to accept this and need to go through this. You don't. Just like there was a time when many therapists were not trauma informed, didn't take it very seriously, were dismissive about it. This is a long time ago. Um, and now they are trauma informed, which has made a world of a difference. There will be a time when there is a lot of therapists that are fear tractable, that really understand the fear mechanism, and that will make such a difference, especially when you're healing the fearful avoidant attachment style. So I just want you to know that this is what you deserve. This is what will really, really help you, even if there's not a therapist that can say that they are trained yet in fear tractability. This is what you deserve. This is what will help you tremendously in healing and finding calm, peace, and security within yourself. So if you have any questions about that, you can comment under this video. And I just want to help you, so I'm thinking how we could do that. Right now, I just spontaneously made this video because I just want you to know this exists. But if you want to know more, let me know in the comments below, and then we'll go from there. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so happy you're here, and I will see you in the next one.